we can see he's already got a hand. He's playing a totally different game. He's got a handful of mountains and forests. No laugh from Jadim Jedi there. I was hoping to at least catch him a little bit there. Uh, we move on to the opening draws for these players, and let's see where we can get to from here. There is the first mulligan from Wastelands there. The second mull down to 4.
That's a painful mulligan.
Yeah, that's a brutal mulligan to go down to 4 there. We do see the opening shard. Especially, you're playing against Blood Diamond, who typically have to fight to win that card control because they're using removal 1-to-1. And now they don't have to worry about that as much. So on the other side of the board, we've already seen Shinshire running Blood Diamond, at least in that last match. Wastelands, I believe, is one of our Blood Sapphire players? Or is he the...
That sounds like something that may be the only Blood Sapphire.
No, there were two Blood Sapphires. Let me just quickly check what Wastelands... Yeah, he is the Blood Sapphire player. Some interesting cards hanging out in there, some difficult to deal with threats. And we see Shinshire reaches a second threshold. There is that Shard of Cunning, confirming, of course, that Wastelands is the Blood Sapphire player.
But Wastelands fighting against this lush forest cliff landscape.
Yeah. I believe Jadim Jedi has come back to sit down here with us. Or he's just gone forever. He's just left us. He's peaced out. Didn't even say be right back.
I think he dropped out of the call. He might be coming back. Wait.
He did drop out of the call. That's fine. We see a tunneled troop from Wastelands. His deck does have a couple of options there. In fact, basically the ones that you would expect from Blood Sapphire. He's got the Monsoon and the Reese and the Wakazashi Ambusher possibilities. So any number of things could be underground waiting to spring up on Shinshire's side of the board here. And again, another tunneling troop. So things not looking too bad considering the mull to 4 here. Still has 4 cards in hand, has hit 2 shards, and has tunneled 2 troops so far. Depending on the power level of those troops, could be just fine. We see Shinshire lay down a living totem, has 3 resources left, and can use those to pump up the living totem in one of various, like 5 various ways. So those tunneling troops all getting counters on them. We see that +1/+1 applied. Those tunneling counters. Kind of a threatening thing here. Wakazashi Ambusher would slow down the living totem at least a little bit. We see Shinshire is going to use Damon's charge power here on the living totem and swing in. Wastelands on the other side of the board, having a Cerulean Mirror Knight, likely going to let this one through, wants to inspire those tunneled troops with the Cerulean Mirror Knight to try to correct that early card disadvantage. We see Solitary Exile coming on down on Shinshire's side of the board, locking away that Cerulean Mentalist. He does not want to lose card advantage here. Still has 4 cards of his own in hand. Here comes the Wakazashi Ambusher. That will reduce the Living Totem's attack and defense by an amount equal to the Wakazashi's attack, which is 2 in this case. Brings it back to its original form, but paying 6 resources to effectively negate the Wakazashi Ambusher entirely is something I feel like I'd be okay with if I was Shinshire.
Shinshire has plenty of resources at the moment.
Yeah, and those resources are going to have a good place to go, a nice home from here on out as he plays the Soul Marble. Shinshire not even threatening the activation of Swift Strike there on the attack. just leaves the living totem behind, has 4 resources this turn to pump into soul marble, and 6 resources at the very worst next turn. Can complete that soul marble anytime here. Now, we do see Saru that the second tunnel troop has reached 3 counters now, basically confirming it's either Reese or Monsoon, both of which are things that Shinshire will want to deal with. But if it's Monsoon, he doesn't even want to kill the Wakazashi Ambusher here because it has come into play and would have a decoy counter on it.
Most decks only have one tunneling troop, but having multiple just increases that mind game option.
This is the top 4 match between Wastelands and Shinshire. This is game 1 of their match. We see the Soul Marble is going to have a couple of counters popped onto it here, one at a time to avoid. Actually, I don't think there's anything Blood Sapphire could. Well, Time Ripple. But if it was Time Ripple, you'd want the extra shard before putting them on one at a time. Soul Marble does turn into Soul Armaments here. I have at one point in my life turned a Soul Marble into Soul Cavalry by mistake. That was silly of me. Living Totem swings in here. Now it is Steadfast and Spell Shield, a 4/4. So let's see what that Tunnel Troop was. It hits 4 counters, it surfaces, it's a Monsoon. Nothing can come back, nothing died while Monsoon was on the board. The only thing that left the board was in fact the Cerulean Mentalist, and that, not the Mentalist, the Mirror Knight, and it is in the void now where it cannot come out. So Monsoon swings in there. Its Rage 2 does help it out a little bit. Angel of Dawn off the top will come onto the board for Shinshire, who still has 5 cards in hand. Counter Magic will be played on the Angel of Dawn. Wasteland's just not having another place to really put that. Doesn't want to use that to protect his troop, I suppose. We will see another Dimmed trigger activated onto the Living Totem, who will swing in here. 6 resources still held open in Shinshire and no direct threat of losing this match at this point. We'll take Wastelands down to 8. Still, on the other side of the board, 5 cards in hand and a draw to go for Wastelands could find an answer here pretty effectively, and Extinction does help here. So you see the Bertram Charge Power coming down, just applying a little bit of defense to the board. That'll be a chump blocker against the Living Totem. In response, though, the Living Totem can just be given flight. Shinshire deciding which of these abilities is more relevant for them. I'm choosing to swing with that Living Totem on the ground here. The Workerbot chumps gives no life drain, gives no further abilities to the Living Totem. End of turn. We do see a resource from Wastelands here, but no play. Doesn't have double blood for Extinction, which is one of the few things that could help out here. Makes the Living Totem an 8/8, I believe was the choice here. So Flight is now lethal. We see the Flight being applied. And the attack will go through. Don't believe there's a card that can save Wastelands in his deck here. So that'll be game 1. Game 1 going down into Shinshire's favor. The players will go to their reserves and swap those 15 cards with their main deck and see what can happen.
Lots of things.
We see Shinshire back in the proving grounds. So Wastelands gets to choose to be on the play or the draw here. As for a restart, no hands were seen, so I suppose there's no reason that can't happen.
Fastest game in the West.
Might have selected the wrong deck, and identifying that problem ahead of time there is definitely the correct way to do that. That will have saved our judge, Michael Allen, a serious amount of headache there. As somebody who plays on a competitive team with Shinshire, but runs the tournament, I can't just say, oh, well, you automatically lose for that, Wastelands. But I want to. No, I'm just kidding. I am rooting for all the players. So Wastelands won the coin toss there, gets to decide whether he wants to draw or play. Shinshire will be on the draw here. Oh, no, he's actually on the play. Okay. Well, that turn one diamond. Oh, he was on the draw. Oh man, it skipped through the just because of that frame rate there for a second. That was just kind of silly. We see the blood sapphire. The stream is so crazy laggy because the only person streaming is Shinshire, who does not have the most fantastic connection for streaming. So we're just going with the best thing that we can. It's this or nothing, which is an unfortunate position to be in, but I would much rather this than nothing. We got the blood sapphire thresholds being met.
We are restreaming a streamer. And
We are restreaming a stream. That also adds to it. So we see a third diamond resource from Shinshire here. Interesting to see that there's no blood there. Wastelands not mulling to 5 this game, or 4 even. Probably in a better position just overall. Plays a turn 4 Vampire King, a 3/4 flight life drain troop that can transform a troop in your hand into another vampire if it's revealed. Absolutely terrifying card to be staring down, but Shinshire, playing the Blood Diamond style of deck, should have plenty of answers for that. Lays down a Soul Marble here, holds up 2 resources. Soul Marble, a threat for Wastelands no matter which way the board goes. Oh, our stream shouldn't be too laggy. Like the stream itself looks laggy, but it like you won't shouldn't be having any frame rate drops on Hacky's end.
I have not dropped a single frame.
Yeah, your internet's crazy. So we see that Vampire King does reveal a solitary exile there, which is kind of interesting. And we see Shinshire. Did Shinshire put the? Oh, he tried to repel, got verdicted. So no counters are on the Soul Marble there.
I need just something to animate on here so that I can show that it's the source.
Yeah, it's fine. Most people here watching the top 8 will have understood that. We see a second repel here. Let's get rid of that Vampire King, says Shinshire. Will we see another verdict or a counter magic from Wastelands? No, that Vampire King does go to the grave. Still 5 resources open on Wasteland's side of the board. Zentos Inquisitor comes down onto the board. Now, that Zentos Inquisitor could be gemmed with something other than Brutality, so we see Shinshire investigate, but honestly I didn't get to see it myself. If I had to guess, it's still Brutality, but it's possible that that is the gem that allows you to get a troop back from your graveyard when it deals damage. With a sticky threat like Zentos Inquisitor, yeah, even when he's zoomed in on it, it's covered by his card blocker. With a sticky threat like Zentos Inquisitor, that Soul Marble looks a little bit better here. We do see Shinshire finds a blood resource and now has at least a little more access to the thresholds in his game. There are double threshold cards in his deck. See a Shard of Fate from Wastelands here. Chooses Sapphire, reaches triple of both thresholds now. He swings in with that Zentos Inquisitor. Might put 3 damage through here. We see all of these counters being applied. The Soul Marble can be completed next turn if desired. This is game 2 of the second round of the top 8 for the Blood Cup 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Dimid has so much health gain potential between Soul Marble, its other troops.
Yeah. We see Shinshire moving his card blocker there just for a second. I waited a little while to say this to make sure that I didn't give away any information, just so that we can see things. That's appreciative. Clearly, that was not the grave digging gem, though, because the Zentos Inquisitor did not find us a Vampire King for Wastelands to replay. So Shinshire with 5 resources open, a 4 diamond, and a single blood threshold. Plenty of options available. Looks like he is going to put that Zentos Inquisitor in a box.
I don't think even against this, normal decks using Zentos Inquisitor would opt for the Gravedigger gem. Because simply, Dimid's power works off of the attack of troops, and even if you can't target them, well...
Yeah.
Before the Soul Marble becomes active or becomes Soul Cavalry, it's still useful to reduce the attack of certain things.
Yeah. Still... in this situation, it's definitely good to check every one of your opponent's gem troops just to make sure that you don't assume something is a troop that it might not be. We see a second blood he hasn't played it yet. I feel like a tool bag.
It's a unicorn.
It is a unicorn, a second blood unicorn. Second blood shard hit the board here. That does mean that all of his thresholds will be attained. Thank God Shinshire played that. That draw animation is so bad. We see Time Ripple applied to... I believe that's to the Soul Marble. I didn't see the line count there. But it looks like Shinshire is just going to apply an extra set of counters to it so that the Soul Marble can be crafted into the Soul Cavalry prior to the Time Ripple landing, which means that it will stick on the board because the cavalry itself does have Spell Shield. Now, when you're playing into a blood deck, normally, or generally speaking, you have to be pretty terrified that your Soul well, not terrified, you have to be very aware that your Soul Cavalry will be destroyed by an extinction. Blood, in particular, does have a way to deal, even with a 6/6 Spell Shield Steadfast troop. But on Shinshire's side of the board, doth sitteth a unicorn of invincibility.
Or rather, he can sacrifice that Hope Park unicorn to make all of his troops invincible for this turn. Thus, the only casualty of extinction would be that unicorn.
Yeah. Also interesting that Time Ripple was in Wasteland's hand but wasn't used earlier to try to force Soul Cavalry into the box. We were talking about this yesterday, but that Time Ripple could have been played on Wasteland Zentoth Inquisitor, which would have forced the Soul Marble into the Solitary Exile box. See the Worker Bot being played, and we see a tunneled troop from the opponent from Wastelands. Is this another Hope Heart Unicorn? That's a lot of protection for that Soul Cavalry here. Dimid Charge Power going onto that Soul Cavalry again, trying to get as much health for Shinshire as possible. We see a Vampire King. A lot of resources invested onto this board by Shinshire, mostly because he knows he can protect those extra troops with the Hope Heart Unicorn triggers. It would take quite a lot of... It would take 2 or 3 cards from Wastelands to be able to deal with this board effectively. So we see another Zentoth's Inquisitor hit the board, and because those troops can become invincible, and the Soul Cavalry is not a Soul Armaments, the Vampire King does naturally become suspect to the Major Blood Orb of Brutality and lose its attack.
And that's important because Vampire King damaging an opponent's champion can look at cards in their hand and troops become whatever. Well, that's two Angel of Dawn. One from the top and one from the hand.
Yeah, that does fill out the board pretty effectively here. Even with the Vampire King not having full attack, it's still a warm body on the side of the board. Also worth noting that a second Soul Marble will, of course, give, if it turns into armaments, give Shinshire's board a full suite of +2/+2. They're Biocorns now, because there's 2 of them, so say a FiveShards in chat.
Binacorns.
There's a lot of damage that can swing in. Interesting to see no swings from the troops that just came into play because they can't swing. I don't know what I was thinking.
What can you do if you have an extinction in hand and there's a unicorn and you can't deal with the unicorn?
Yeah.
Not only that, 2 unicorns.
Gotta play that extinction there.
He actually had 2 extinctions.
It looks like he says good luck in the finals. Yeah, it would have taken 3 extinctions, though. Would have taken 3 extinctions.
And the second one would have to be the next turn, as his board still has Invincible. Hopart Unicorn, very anti-extinction.
Yeah. Well, now, to be fair, had he drawn... No, nothing. You can't... That Hopart Unicorn is so tricky.
You'd have to single target remove it, and then wait for the next turn, or...
Cause you have to have a quick action extinction, right? That's the problem.
Yeah, it takes 2 turns, because even if you murdered or something the unicorn, you'd simply just sacrifice in response. There's no cost to it, so you might as well.
Yeah. So that does push Shinshire off into the finals, and